Super Bowl with great conditions, I would bet with the Stars because those are the guys that are going to be the most well practiced. They're going to be able to utilize the game plan as it's been scripted for the last 2 weeks, as you've been doing the entire season. But with the weather conditions potentially being a little bit tough on Sunday, I think there's supposed to be some rain, potentially some wind. I think I go with depth because what depth does is it gives you more ways to win. You're going to be able to run the ball to win. You're going to be able to throw the ball deep to win. You're going to be able to throw the ball short to win if you got to play zone coverage, if you got to play man coverage. However you have to play the game to win, depth gives you the opportunity to play that type of game. So I think this tilts the game a little bit more in the Buccaneers' favor because of that depth that they have and because of the potential adverse weather on Sunday.
Listen, you didn't have the great fortune of having a star quarterback, but you yourself were a leader. It's very clear that Tom walked into that locker room, and there was turbulence, Joe. There's the Thursday night Chicago game. He's screaming at teammates. There's 11 penalties. It wasn't easy. It's like Troy Aikman, his first couple years in Dallas. NFL films. He's barking at guys. Get in line. And when you look at that, it's just kind of, you can't argue it. Tom is maybe not the most talented quarterback, but in terms of leadership, what he's done in Tampa, there's no comp. Did you ever play with a player? Didn't have to be a quarterback, where you just felt they had an ability to lead other successful alpha males?
I played with a lot of quarterbacks, and I played with a lot of other players that were great leaders. But the reason Tom Brady, in my opinion, is the greatest leader that we've ever seen in any sport, in American sport, is because he's combined the great leadership intangibles that you talk about with the great on-field performance. Because the way you become a great leader of men is by not only talking the talk, but walking the walk. So when Brady's at the line of scrimmage and he tells you to do something, you better do it because he's counting on you, because he's going to do his job, and you better be able to do your job and hold up your end of the bargain. And I think that's what's made him such an incredible leader for 2 decades. And he walks right into Tampa Bay. He's out there doing all the things he's asking everybody else to do. So as a great leader, as a boss, the best ones are always the ones that would never ask you to do something that they haven't done or that they're not willing to currently do.
It's interesting. Mahomes, his personality is different than Tom. Now, he's also very young, but he's a little more joyful, a little more playful. I've been at 2 events where he's there. He's like a kid. Where Tom, even when he was 25, was one of those people like Russell Wilson, 25 going on 40. And Mahomes very much lives in the moment of being a kid. Are there advantages or disadvantages to that? He's a little more playful, a little looser than Tom. How do you think that plays out over the next 15 years?
I think that's just a difference of generations, right? That's just Patrick Mahomes' generation, the new generation, the early 20s people, the YOLO generation versus the Tom Brady generation, which, you look at all those quarterbacks that came out when Brady was playing. They're all much more serious. And I think both personalities work. It's whoever you are. You just got to let your personality out. And I think we've seen this in spades in the last 3-4 years in the NFL. And I think Brady was able to prove it, and Gronk was able to prove it coming down to Tampa. Like, the success of Belichick in New England was not because he was stern and serious and he made everybody's life miserable. It was because he was an amazing coach and he watched tons of film and was able to put all those guys in a great position to succeed. And he got those guys to buy into something bigger than themselves, this team concept, right? And I think Patrick Mahomes has that. Now, he does it with a little bit more joy on his face. He seems to be having a little bit more fun maybe than especially when Tom was in New England. But I think both can work because in the end, it's all about playing and doing something bigger than yourself, buying into that team concept, working hard, and getting the most out of all those guys and finding ways to individually motivate everybody.
Listen, you played 10,363 straight snaps. You could have played a lot longer if not for injuries. You could have played, you were a dominant player your last snap in the NFL. But it's interesting, as you were getting into your 30s, you were playing with a lot of guys that were in their early 20s. So Brady's 43. And that whole generational thing is kind of interesting, Joe. Is it a challenge, do you think? In your last year in the NFL, sometimes kids would come into the locker room with music and tech, and did you think, wow, I'm getting old here? Did you face that challenge?
Man, I was that grumpy guy in the locker room when I was 26 years old, and it was twice as bad when I was 34, my last year in the NFL. And I think this is one of the reasons why the dynasty and the greatness of Tom Brady hasn't fully been appreciated, is because he's in his early 40s right now, and he's able to humble himself. The greatest sports athlete that we've ever seen in American history, he's able to humble himself and go up to a 21 or 22-year-old rookie, and he's willing to be interested in the things that those guys are interested in. I got to be honest, it was hard for me to relate to a lot of those young guys in the locker room my last couple of years in the NFL with how they dressed or the music they listened to or the social media stuff. I didn't even have a Twitter until my last year or two in the NFL, and I still don't have anything else because I can't manage more than one social media handle. But Brady's been able to constantly reinvent himself, and that's something that few successful older players are able to do, because you know what success does? It makes you sort of stuck in your ways because you think this is the only way I can do this to have success because it's the way it worked for me the first time. But Brady's been flexible, and that's something very, very few superstar athletes are able to have.
He made the College Football Hall of Fame. He'll be eligible for the NFL Hall of Fame, I think, in 23, and he will be a first ballot guy. Follow him on his Twitter account. He's got one social media account. I want everybody to follow him at Joe Thomas 73. We'll talk to you soon. Up to the draft. It's a great year for offensive linemen in the draft, so I'm going to bring you on a couple times, give you some love. Joe, we got to go. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Colin. I look forward to seeing you with the draft and talking offensive line play and putting your listeners to sleep a little bit.
I appreciate it. It's a great draft for receivers and offensive tackles. Coming up next, is Tom the last pocket quarterback? And then is it done? Some thoughts on that and where we're going in the sport next. Any credit card can offer cash back, but only Discover matches all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year. It's like getting one of those birthday cards that's shaped like cash. You know, cash is inside. But in this case, it's stuff with your first year cash back match. Don't even have to send a thank you note. Cash back match from Discover. Learn more at discover.com/match. Discover, something brighter, accepted at 99% of the places in America that take credit cards.